celebrating the connection with our pets. This is Animal Radio, featuring your dream team, veterinarian Dr. Debbie White and groomer Joey Villani. And here are your hosts, Hal Abrams and Judy Francis.
Just another tremendous show in what happens to be, I believe, the third episode of the Season of Stars by Accident. As
the what?
The season. Well, we usually had the Season of Stars here on Animal Radio.
Yeah, that went a couple months.
Couple months. Went almost a year.
Yeah, I guess it did.
Holy moly, yes. And it's happening again. For some reason, all the celebs are coming out. We had Joyce DeWitt on a couple of weeks back. Today, Charlotte Ross will be joining us talking about the animals that she loves and has in her world. Next week, country star Lori Morgan will be joining us. And then there's rumor that Hilary Swank will be joining us here in the near future.
I love her.
Oh, don't you?
And they love their animals, too.
And I know why she's going to be on, and this is going to be very, very, very cool.
Ooh.
I just put two and two together here.
Good for you. Good for you. You know who's on today? Is Jackson Galaxy, who's the he's like the cat whisperer.
Yeah, he is.
This will be his second or third time, or in Judy's head, maybe the sixth or seventh time.
13.
On Animal Radio. He's actually talking about his new book called Catification, which tells you how to turn your house into a cat-friendly...
That's cool.
Yes.
Into a cat house.
A cat house, cat-friendly house.
Yep.
So let's get going right here. What do you got, Tammy? What are you working on today?
Well, you know, it's so hard if you have animals to find a place to rent. Everybody knows that, and it's so terribly expensive. But there is one city in Northern California that may be putting a stop to landlords saying, no, I won't rent to you because you have a cat, a dog, a guinea pig, a fish, a bird, or whatever.
Well, I know that happens a lot. Hopefully
it does.
You'll have answers for us coming up in just a few minutes right here on Animal Radio. Joey, what are you working on?
Well, you know, I'm going to respond to getting yelled at this week for not getting someone in their holiday appointments that are coming up because we're already booked for the holidays. So I'm going to give people a tip on how to sneak their pets in real easy.
You run and you open the door and you throw them in, and then you close the door and you take off.
That usually works too, but we boot them right back out at that point.
Okay, well, tips with Joey Villani, the dog father, in just a few minutes right here on Animal Radio. We welcome Steve to the show. Hi, Steve.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Where are you calling from today?
Costa Mesa, California.
Costa Mesa. Okay, listening in Los Angeles. How can we help you? I got the whole team here for you.
Yeah, I have a dog. I adopted him he's 7 years old now. It's a Red Merle Australian Shepherd, purebred. I adopted him about 5 years ago when he was 2 up from the pound. And, he was really abused when I got him. He was a biter and he bit people and stuff. But I've really worked with him, and he's come along. He's done a great job. But he still has an issue with other dogs. And so when he'll come up to another dog, the dog will be up to him and he'll be friendly, and then boom, all of a sudden he'll just snap at the other dog. And, it's like once he snaps at the dog, he's usually pretty good with the dog after that. But, most people don't want to give him a second chance. Yeah. And, so I have some close friends that, are willing to, and he's friends with those dogs. But other dogs, it's like a dominance thing, and I don't know how to overcome that.
Well, some of the things that jump to mind right away from what you've described, there are some dogs that if they aren't adequately socialized when they're young and in that very moldable period of time of, about 5 to 12 to 16 weeks of age, if they don't have a lot of interactions on how to behave with other dogs or with people, they actually kind of fail to learn those cues on how to read another animal or person's behavior and how to react to that. So some of what another dog might understand is, okay, this dog is approaching me, but its tail is wagging. I don't need to be on the protection, or I don't need to be on the defense. Whereas other dogs just don't get it if they've never been exposed to that. So they might be more unpredictable and not follow the cues of another dog.
And I think that's exactly what you're saying is exactly what's happened. I just think they probably got him, pulled him away from his mother when he was really young. But how do I overcome that?
Well, one of the things is just allowing him to snap at the other dog. I don't see that as a solution. We want to control the situation before you get to that point, because once that's already happened, you've already failed. So we want that.
What I've been trying to do is just keep him away from other dogs, but I'd really like him to get to the point where he can socialize with other dogs.
Well, in what we want and what may be realistic for a pet with aggressive tendencies can be very different. So that's where, I have high hopes when we manage things like this, but we have to be realistic. And not every dog can we work through the aggression to the level where they're going to play nice at, say, dog parks or at friends' homes and things like that. We're going to just have to see how it works out and what your dog's response to the situations are. So now, avoiding the situation.
Let me point one thing out. I mean, I have taken him to the dog beach and let him loose at the dog beach. He plays rough, but I mean, he gets along, in some situations with other dogs. So, it's but then when he's on a leash walking him and another dog comes up to him, that's when he has the issue.
Right.
Well, sometimes they get leash dominance, too.
Exactly. We could have other issues other than just inter-dog social things. When you throw the human into the mix of things, it complicates things. So we're not just talking about inter-dog aggression. We're talking about protective aggression. So a dog that protects or is aggressive only when on the leash by the owner may do well off-leash in other scenarios. And that's something that I usually advise to work with a behaviorist to help work through these things. But in managing a dog that is reactive or will bark or snap at another dog on a leash, part of what you're doing is good, that we're trying to avoid situations that could escalate and cause problems. But we need to work on training kind of in conjunction with that. So as you're trying to avoid those situations that get him amped up, anxious, and he may end up snapping, we want to teach him calm behaviors. So what I do for my dog is I teach her the watch me command. And it's basically your dog looks at you, makes eye contact, you give a treat. You reward them positively for looking at you for direction. And usually most dogs are sitting during this time, so that kind of is another way of just practicing basic obedience. But do that when you're avoiding those other dogs. You don't even have them in the sight or smell nearby for him. Practice that so he can learn to be relaxed and be responsive to your voice. And then that's the kind of thing that then with time we would approach dogs from a distance and then really watch his body language. Because
tenses up when other dogs come around. I've noticed that.
Yeah. So before that happens, we want to cut things short and turn and calmly, turn in another direction. So just before he starts, you'll know once that distance, you start to say, okay, 20 yards from here, there's another dog, and I can see his ears are perking up. He's looking, his shoulders are getting a bit puffed up in the front. That's too close for him at that point. So in the future, you try to keep the distance back further and then work on the basic things like, obedience commands and the watch me command. And then eventually, when he does that really well, we'll try to challenge that with a little bit closer proximity to another dog. And we're not going to go nose to nose. We're not going anywhere close to that. We just want him to be okay with the sight of another dog nearby and being calm and looking to you for cues. So watching you and looking for you, that's really what we're going to want to work on. So you've got a lot of the right ideas, and obviously he's come a long way. But I think that
huge way.
Well, good. Well, try that. And then definitely, if you are having other issues with close interactions where he's unpredictable or not giving cues, because that can be the other problem, is that a dog that sometimes is aggressive to another dog doesn't kind of give those other signals. So he may not be giving off the visual cues of, hey, I'm not cool with this. And the other dogs can't read it because he's not giving those signs. So, working with a trainer to kind of help on the ground can also be very helpful.
See, what I thought was if I just, could find a place where I could just leave him for a week with a pack of dogs where he could just, intermingle and learn the behaviors, but I guess that's probably a good ideal solution.
Well, that's kind of like flooding, where we throw an animal into a situation that makes them anxious or fearful and let them work through that. And in general, that doesn't really help. It's just going to increase his anxiety. But, there are situations where I do have a doggy facility that I use where we go for training, and they do often work with dogs that have these kind of problems, but they do it on a one-on-one basis first and don't just let the dog loose, because that's not safe for anybody.
Okay. Dogs have to stock up on dog treats.
Absolutely. You know what? As a veterinarian, I used to be so opposed to treats and food rewards. And I can tell you the benefits of food and positive reinforcement, it goes so far. And I have changed my ways. I used to say, don't give treats, I give my dogs boiled chicken. I give them string cheese. You know, they get all sorts of stuff. But I use it in a training method when I want a high-value reward that really gets them excited. And I know they're going to respond to me instead of whatever else is, I'm working on the training with.
Okay.
Thanks for your call, Steve.
All right. Thank you, guys.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Channel Cable, we were talking about common dog behavioral problems like barking, chewing, digging, and separation anxiety. Today we're going to talk about begging. It's a bad habit, but most of the time it's caused by the dog owner. A few years ago, a friend invited me over to his house for Super Bowl, told me I could bring my dog. I told my dog to go down, stay in the corner, and watched his dogs running lunatic all over the house. One jumped on the table and grabbed the ham right off, ran away with it. There's two of them, and he's got no control over either. They've got the run of the house, and they're everywhere. He comes over to me. He goes, I don't get it. How do you get your dog to stay like that? I said, I'll tell you what. What's your biggest problem? What do you wish you could stop right now? He says, begging. I want my dogs to stop begging from the table. And as he's telling me this, he's feeding the dog from the table as he's talking to me. He's giving him pieces of turkey while he's talking to me. I don't think he even realizes it. So I pointed it out. I said, look what you're doing right now. You can't feed a dog from the table and then expect him not to beg. It's got to be one way or the other way. Either he never gets food from the table, people food, or he does. It's that simple. And if he does, he's going to beg. Giving in just once causes a huge problem. In the dog world, a subordinate would never beg from the lead dog. When you teach your dog that begging's okay, you jeopardize your role as pack leader. Before you sit down to eat, tell your dog to stay. Create a spot where you want your dog to be. Maybe it's a rug in the kitchen. And before you sit down to eat, tell him to stay. Tell him to go to his rug. You want to teach your dog not to stare at you and that begging is useless. That it's not permitted. If he is staring, put him in another room. If he behaves himself, you give him a treat, but only after you and the rest of your family are done eating. Over time, you'll be able to teach your dog that you are in charge and that begging from anyone in the pack or from any human period is just not permitted and that it's useless. Another good thing to do is always eat before you feed your dog. Then after you're done and you decide to feed him, make him work for the food. Have him sit and stay for 30, 40 seconds before you tell him to have at it. Well, good luck. We're all in this together.
Thousands of authors across the country have written books and published them with Page Publishing. If you've written a book, they can help you through the process. Cut through the confusion of the publishing world to make it easy for you. If they decide to publish your book, your work ends, theirs begins. From copy editing and proofing to typesetting and book cover art. Plus, get your book printed, distributed, and sold on Amazon, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, and in bookstores across the country. They even help promote your book. Biography, self-help, mystery, novels, sci-fi, or even a children's book. No matter what genre, Page Publishing can bring your book to life. And don't forget to ask about audiobooks. We do all of this for you. Call today for your free writer's guide packed with tips, tricks, and templates to help you finish what you started.
800-215-6815. 800-215-6815. 800-215-6815. That's 800-215-6815.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Obviously, working at Animal Radio doesn't exactly always pay the bills. We all have our hands in other things. For instance, Judy does a little bit of pet sitting on the side, dog walking. Joey Villani has a great line of stain removals. It will get blood out of the carpet. You want to check that out. And, of course, Dr. Debbie has several books, 4 books, Yorkshire Terriers, Shih Tzus, Pugs, Mini Schnauzers, How to Be Your Dog's Best Friend. It is like the owner's manual or the guardian's manual for these dogs. And she does a fine job of writing, too. She's a good writer. Let's hit the phones right now for your calls for Dr. Debbie or for dog father Joey Villani. Well, hi, Pauline. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very well. So what's going on? How can we help you?
Okay. I have a 9-year-old Aussie Blue Heeler mix. I've had her since she was 8 months old. She's always been on the timid side, or the nervous side, I guess. She's going through separation anxiety, which started about a year ago when I moved into this new apartment. And basically, I have got her in a thunder shirt, which tends to work. I have her on 30 milligrams of Prozac every day. And I'm just really lost as to, I know the pheromones. I've been talking to people about pheromones, but I'm kind of lost as to where to go. I mean, if I take her to work with me, she's as happy as a clam. And then if I leave her home for one day, take her to the next, it just makes she threw up the other day going to doggy daycare, so, the anxiety gets worse. So I'm kind of lost.
So when she has exhibited the behavior at home, what does she do? What all kind of problems does she exhibit?
She's in an older crate, which is probably 30 years old, so it's very well built. It's a heavy metal. She's actually gone through the front. She has a small hole that she's put in the front of it, literally just chewing the wire. I've taped her. I've recorded her from my computer, and she'll stand there and whine and yip. She has a very high-pitched bark. And then she paces. She'll claw at the cage. She paces. She yips. She's constantly panting. So high anxiety.
Okay. And have you always crated her, or is that just something you've done to manage things?
No, I trained her to the crate when she started with the separation anxiety. She eats in there every night. She actually, she's very good at it. When I'm in the apartment and I forget she's there, I'll look around going, uh-oh, where is she? And she's sitting in there waiting for me. So it's not a situation that she hates the crate, I don't think. I don't know if I put her on a different anti-anxiety medicine or...
Well, I think this is going to come to, there's no drug that's going to fix this. It's really going to have to fall on the hard work of behavior modification. And anytime we talk about separation anxiety, I always tell people, I can't give you a pill to fix this, and I can't give you a gadget to put on your dog. We really have to do the footwork and do that desensitizing. And that basically goes back to your departures and your arrivals. And any dog with separation anxiety, we really have to look at how we react and interact with our dogs. So if when a person comes home from work during the day, if you greet your dog, you pet them, you see what a good dog they are.
Completely. Yeah, I'm sorry interrupting, but I ignore her because she's a basket case.
Yes, and that is the right technique. So for about 15 to 30 minutes, either before you leave or when you arrive back home, you have to ignore her. So those kind of steps we have to work on. And then also some of those practice cues. We have to, the departure of you leaving the house sets off anxiety in her. So things like, grabbing your purse, grabbing your keys, walking out the door, all of those things build up towards more and more anxiety. So if we're not practicing those cues and...
When you say practicing, you mean like picking up the keys and not leaving or something?
Yeah. So when we first work with behavior modification, we have to basically act like you're going to leave, but don't. And we do that. I usually recommend people do that 2 to 4 times a day. So you don't have to do it constantly, but it basically means that, for the rest of the day, you're going to have problems. But we want to really practice that. So, you pick up your purse, you put on your jacket, you tie your shoes, and then you go sit on the couch. Or you go in the kitchen and you do dishes. And you don't pay any attention to the dog during this, because in many cases they're going to start getting anxious. You're going to start seeing that panting, pacing. You ignore the dog when they're behaving in an anxious manner. Okay. So you practice those cues, and eventually, if you have a calm, relaxed dog, then you move up to where you actually walk out the door with those types of triggers. But those are steps that it's not immediately. It takes a lot of work and a lot of practice.
Is she crated, or do I leave her loose when I'm doing this?
Well, that's the problem, is if you cannot safely keep her in the home without her causing major destruction, sometimes crating is a necessary step. But whether you have a pet sitter or not, the very important thing is to keep the pet stimulated and keep them entertained. So I've had a dog where the dog used to eat through drywall in the owner's home unless they confined it. And then they confined it in the crate, and it would break its teeth and actually lacerate its gums trying to get out. So there was no solution of confinement or leaving it in the home alone. They had to take that dog to daycare. And that was really the only viable solution in that type of situation. So sometimes you have to look at things and find the lesser of the evils. But for me, if you can go for the constant supervision, it'll be the best step there.
When you start training them, like retraining them by practicing, how long does it take? You say it takes a long time, like a week, a month, 3 months?
This depends upon consistency and practice. So if it's only practice once a day, you may not ever get there. If it's something done consistently, and that's the other thing. All family members or all people in the household have to be on board with the kind of steps that we're talking about. And we also need to make sure we're training the dog to be calm. So we don't tell them what we don't want them to do. We want to show them what we want them to do. Right. So when you get ready to leave, we want to teach them a nice quiet spot where they can be calm, and you reward that calmness for going to pillow or go to your place.
I hope that helps you, Pauline, a little bit there.
Thank you.
You know, I actually get separation anxiety like when my pet leaves or goes into another room and I miss my pet.
I have clients, and we joke about that. There are clients that have separation anxiety from their pets.
I have that too, but it's reverse. Usually when my wife comes home, I get anxiety, and when she leaves, I lose the anxiety.
Oh. Joey, I'm going to tell her.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Turn your book idea into publishing gold.
800-215-6815. 800-215-6815. That's 800-215-6815.
This is an Animal Radio News Update.
I'm Tammy Trujillo. We've had stories on the show about how hard it is to find an apartment or a house to rent if you have pets. Now, that could actually change in the near future in the city of Berkeley in Northern California. A city councilman there, Jesse Araquin, is talking about trying to get rid of no-pet policies. His proposal would reportedly require landlords to accept renters with cats, dogs, or other small house pets, everything from rabbits to reptiles, as long as the pets are well behaved and don't disturb the other renters. The proposal could require, and they're still putting this thing together, it could require renters to get pet insurance and take care of any property damage caused by their animals, even if it exceeds the amount of their security deposit. Araquin's office says the measure is partly the result of all the confusion over the rules concerning emotional support animals. Not just service animals for people with disabilities, but the current trend of people whose doctors say they need a pet to help with conditions like anxiety. If this thing goes through, it would be the first of its kind in the nation. Meanwhile, most landlords who allow pets do insist on the pet deposit. We know that. But many are now starting to charge a monthly pet rent. Now, this is anything from $10 to $50 a month. Apartments.com did a survey, and 29% of the people who use their service said they are paying that monthly fee to have their pets, and that's up 20% from last year. Well, if you're into classic Hollywood like I am, you know who Joan Fontaine was. The Academy Award-winning actress died at the age of 96. She's not going to be forgotten soon by animal lovers. Proceeds from the sale of her fantastic home up in Carmel, California, will go to the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals in Monterey County, as well as a sale of all its contents, and that includes the Oscar she won for her role in Alfred Hitchcock's 1941 film Classic Suspicion. That could bring $300,000 alone when it's auctioned by Christie's next month. I'm Tammy Trujillo. Get more breaking animal news anytime at animalradio.com.
This has been an Animal Radio News Update. Get more at animalradio.com.
Dogs or cats, horse or emu, animals are people too.
You know what they say, if you don't vote, you can't complain. Well, don't tell that to Toby. A New Zealand dog owner got in a lot of trouble for filling out a voter registration form for Toby, his Jack Russell Terrier. Peter Rhodes of Queenstown says he was just trying to make a point about government bureaucracy. But the bureaucrats aren't laughing. A local official said Rhodes may face criminal charges for voter fraud, even though Toby didn't even vote in the recent national election. Toby signed his voter's registration form with a paw print, and his occupation was listed as rodent exterminator. I'm Britt Savage for Animal Radio.
Animals are people too. Animal Radio.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
You're going to love this story. It's kind of a heartwarming story. We welcome to the show John Dwyer. Hi, John. How are you?
Joe Dwyer.
Joe Dwyer. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
Tell us a little bit about Daniel. Who is Daniel?
Daniel's an absolutely incredible story. In October, he was placed in a gas chamber, unfortunately.
He's a dog, right?
Yes, he is, with 17 other dogs, and unfortunately, although the others did not make it that day, Daniel did, being one of only 2 dogs ever to have survived the gas chamber where others did not. Mm-hmm. And he instantly became a celebrity and someone who does a world of good for a lot of people and animals.
So let me get the story straight. He was being euthanized, and there's some states, archaic states, that still use the gas chamber to euthanize animals, and apparently he made it through the gas chamber, is what you're saying?
Yes, and there are still 20 states in our nation, 20 to 22 states, I should say, that still use the gas chamber. So that's a little less than half. We've had influence in several of the states since Daniel has survived to ban it, but we obviously have a ways to go, and we're still working on that. But yes, he did survive miraculously, and he was named Daniel immediately after the biblical figure that survived the gas chamber, and we were lucky to adopt him here in New Jersey, and he's been doing wonderful things ever since.
I'm just scratching my head. Dr. Debbie, how does that happen?
Well, there's certain rules that are in place for places that use that, and I'd have to say that even though they may have a gas chamber on file as being used, I think most states, injection methods are by far preferred as a method of consistent euthanasia that's pain-free. But when some of the different gases are used, some of the things that have to be done, there has to be a certain limit to the number of patients or animals in the chamber, and if there's too crowded, then there won't be even air exchange. So you can get pockets where you don't have as much gas as other areas. And the other thing is that certain gases have different almost like, how hot air rises and cold air settles. Some gases do the same thing, and you can have different concentrations at very variable elevations in the chamber. So and certainly if there's leaks or things like that. So there's a lot of variables that you could look at, and that's why I think most places would say that that's not a favorable way of providing what we call a good death. That's what euthanasia does mean.
Say, Joe, where is Daniel now?
Daniel's right here in my home.
You adopted Daniel.
New Jersey. Yes, I did. I adopted Daniel.
In Nutley, New Jersey.
Nutley, New Jersey, exactly. We are about 10 miles due east of New York City, so we're in northern New Jersey, and we enjoy many good events to promote adoptions, spay and neuter, and wonderful acts of compassion. And actually, my most notable thing that I do with Daniel is to take him to schools to try to educate our youth. Using his story of surviving the toxic gas chamber, I try to relate that to the emotional toxins that a lot of our high school students have, and then also get them interested in doing the right thing for animals.
Emotional toxins like?
Like comparing to others, like bullying, things that our teenage students throughout our country deal with today, peer pressure, the pressures to succeed. And relating it to Daniel's story is a good way to get across to these students. I've found some great success doing so. And then, obviously, they're captivated with his story because it truly is a miracle. The other ones didn't make it, and he did. And that, to this day, my best answer to that is he was meant to live. Certainly.
What made you adopt him?
Well, it was a very great story. He was brought from Alabama, where this took place, to New Jersey by 11th Hour Rescue, a active rescue group here in New Jersey. I was helping them with some consulting for a new facility they were building to do some fundraising. And they told me about Daniel's story, and as a motivational speaker, I was helping them get some points out in the thought that he might have a little bit of fame to his surviving story. And adoption fell through, and there was many adopters out there, and we met their criteria. He came and met with our 4 other rescues at the time here in our home. Everyone got along really well, and the next, as the saying goes, the rest is history.
Wow.
Your mission to get these states, these 31 states, you said 22 or is it 31? How many of these?
There's still 22 that use the gas chamber throughout our country.
Okay, you're trying to get them to, or at least get legislation started for banning inhumane forms of euthanasia. Other than gas, what are the inhumane ways that still exist?
Well, I would say the gas chamber has to be one of the most barbaric, and what I try to influence as much as we can with legislators is that it really doesn't speak to a compassionate society. We had a tremendous impact in helping Senator Andy Dinniman in Pennsylvania, once Daniel survived, getting it banned in the state of Pennsylvania, found out that actually it costs less per animal for humane euthanasia with a sedative than it does to operate the gas chamber. I would say the other terrible forms are heart sticks that are used also in many areas of the country. Those are probably the worst two that come to mind.
What is a heart stick?
A heart stick on an awake animal. We should clarify that because a heart stick on an unconscious or anesthetized animal is a legitimate form of euthanasia because they're not feeling anything and they're not aware. But doing that on an awake pet would be creating anxiety, undue pain, and just not approved.
What is it?
A heart stick is basically an injection that we would normally give in the vein as a euthanasia drug is given directly in the heart. Oof. And the reasons that might be done is we might have a very small creature like wildlife will commonly have to do with a heart stick because they're so small. So we put them under gas and then we do a heart stick. Or if the patient was just really dehydrated or really debilitated and you just can't get a vein that's really consistent, that it is it is necessary. And if they're unconscious, it's a very humane way.
Is there anything listeners can do to help you with your crusade?
Well, I would say the most important thing that can be done is to continue to educate. One thing that I've really come to realize since Daniel has come to live with us, we had the pleasure of being in the Rose Parade this past year with the Lucy Pet Foundation out there in California, where you are, across the country, who is promoting low-cost spay and neuter. And his story got a lot of coverage during that time frame. There are really a lot of people that are not aware that what goes on in our country with the use of the gas chamber, the need for adoptions, all the issues that lead to the 80,000 or so animals that unfortunately lose their life each week in our country. I would say just continuing to educate yourself on what the issues are and continue to really encourage people to adopt. These animals come into your life and they enrich your life. And there's many out there like Daniel who are waiting for a good home.
Good words. Joe Dwyer, our hero of the week. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having us on. And this is another great way to get the word out. So we appreciate the opportunity.
How would you like to save money on nearly all your prescription drugs? We've set up a special toll-free number for the RX Outreach Program. They're a nonprofit company whose mission it is to make prescription drugs more affordable to the masses. They don't take insurance, and in many cases, your prescriptions are even cheaper than your co-pays. They carry thousands of different prescription drugs, so whatever you're taking, there's a good chance they have it. No coupons are required, and this is not a discount card. It is pure savings on your prescription drugs. They specialize in generic meds for any chronic health needs you have. Call with your prescription and find out for free how little you can pay for your prescription drugs. Remember, we don't take insurance, so call right now.
800-689-0143. 800-689-0143. 800-689-0143. That's 800-689-0143.
Hi, this is Joy Behar on Animal Radio. Please spay and neuter your pets.
You're listening to Animal Radio. If you missed any part of today's show, visit us at animalradio.com or download the Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Hey, Roger.
How are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Trying to get home.
Where's home?
Say, Grand Island, Nebraska.
Nebraska. Okay. How can we help you today?
I called a couple of weeks ago and told you about my four-legged heroes. Well, one of my heroes has a problem. Actually, both of them do, but the one I want to address right now is a cat. We have our computer in the living room, and we have our office chair there, and the old one, he just shredded it from his claws, digging in. And we bought a new chair, and we're trying to keep him away from it. I even gave him the old chair and put it in a room where he sleeps all the time, and that doesn't even do any good. He still likes that new chair. There's something we could do different.
Well, you gave him a brand new chair. He's thanking you. and that's not unusual. I've had that happen before where people will, get a whole new couch. They put a new one in there, and the kitty does the same behavior because it's still the same place. It's the same behavior. So nothing in his world has changed. So the challenge is to try to train the kitty to not use the chair as the preferred spot. So this is where, have you ever used a scratching post for him?
I have put other things up there for him to scratch on. He still likes the chair.
Yeah. Preference there. Well, there's some things we can do. And the tough thing with cats on scratching on things, we can't always do a negative deterrent. We don't want to yell at them. We don't want them to see us reprimand them, because then they've associated that with us and they're not associating it with the behavior. So we really focus on positive reinforcement and then just blocking the area and cutting off access. So as positive reinforcement, that's where we get the alternate site. We get a scratching post or a kitty condo. We feed the kitty there. We throw treats. We throw catnip there. We make that a very good spot. And if you have to, you put it next to that chair, or you put it somewhere where he can still see it in the environment that he wants to scratch. Because scratching is a marking behavior. It's a way that kitties in a social environment spread their scent and basically say, all is good, this is my house. They don't realize they're being destructive in the world. So we want to give him that outlet. We want to train him to that positively, make it a good thing. And then at the same time, then we can try some tips to try to keep him away from that office chair that you don't want him to use. And everybody has their different preferences. I've had some clients that have great success with the double-sided tape. Sticky paws, which is a particular type of that. You put on the area, and it just kind of feels uncomfortable for the kitty. It doesn't really hurt them, but that can be very useful. As far as you can always cover the chair with something so it feels different to the touch, because cats love the feel when they're scratching, and that's really what attracts them to that area. So if you cover the chair, at least the part he can access, with aluminum foil or even just a plastic wrap, it's going to feel different to him, and he may not have that same draw to want to scratch on that. And you can use like the spray bottle method. I have some clients that swear that's the best thing, but the cat cannot see you direct the spray bottle or the squirt bottle at the kitty, or the game is off, and now that they're just afraid of you and they think you're going to chase them.
Yeah.
So those are some good things, and you can look into some other.
Would you get? What kind of
What's
spray
that?
would you get?
Oh, just a little water mister.
Really?
A water mister, or you can get a squirt gun, just a small, don't get out the super soaker squirt guns. There's no reason to, totally soak the kitty. But,
don't use the super soaker anymore, Judy. You got to put that away. That was apparently too much.
Yeah, fire hose is too much.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. But, then there's some other things. And some people have some good success with some of the compressed air items that are used for training cats. If you try to keep them off of couches or counters, there's these little containers that you can buy on the internet and pet catalogs and so forth, that when the pet goes by a certain area, it gives a puff of this compressed air, like you're cleaning your computer keyboard. And they don't like the sound of it. It doesn't hurt them. But you can set that up strategically in the area you don't want the kitty to go, right by that chair. And that can be another training tool that doesn't hurt, and it associates, the kitty associates the area with something they're supposed to avoid. So that might be another thing I'd try for you.
Get yourself a scratching post and teach them the right place to go. You know what we did is we took our cats and we just actually held their claws up to the scratching post and rubbed it on the scratching post so they get their scent on it. And they just went from our couch right to the scratching post. And it was really, I don't know, were we lucky? I don't know, because you hear about this problem, we know that you cannot declaw. This will cause all kinds of other problems, and I don't want to go that way with this.
But another trick I found is to put their bed by the scratching post, because the first thing a cat does when he wakes up is wants to scratch.
Wants to do a little stretch. And you know what? They need to scratch and stretch. This is a part of their lifestyle. The other thing, of course, if you can afford it, cement furniture works very well.
Hey, there you go. But I don't have no problem with him getting up and scratching, because even I'm gone, he sleeps on my side of the bed. Sleeps on my pillow. So
he's replacing you. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, he loves it when I get home and takes a nap. He curls up right beside me, close to get to me, and he'll take a nap with me. So, I appreciate it.
Well, my pleasure, and good luck with that. And give him a hug and a nice little scratch behind those ears for us.
Tammy, what are you working on this hour?
Well, therapy dogs, we all know how valuable they can be. And a new study was done to see how they might fit into the college scene to help students with anxiety over, classes and tests and what have you. So we have the results of that study, but we have the results of a second study that checks out how therapy dogs stress out about being therapy dogs. Do they or don't they? And how we can make it a good experience for them at the same time that they're helping us out.
You never think about that, do you?
Exactly.
Okay, well, we'll find out more in just a few minutes right here on Animal Radio. Let's hit the phones.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-785-1673. 800-785-1673. 800-785-1673. That's 800-785-1673.
Celebrating the connection with our pets. This is Animal Radio, featuring your dream team, veterinarian Dr. Debbie White and groomer Joey Villani. And here are your hosts, Hal Abrams and Judy Francis.
This hour, Charlotte Ross, actress Charlotte Ross, most notably from Glee. At least that's where I know her from, although Joey says he's seen her on NYPD Blue. She was also in Nashville, and I believe she has a new show on the CW, which is a network for those of you that
Get the CW.
get
right?
the CW.
Yes.
I don't personally, so I may. I don't know. I don't watch. I don't think I have anything on the CW that I watch. But I'll be watching her now because she's a hottie. Yeah, she and I go way back.
Oh, yeah, how?
I call her Char Char.
We understand.
Is that what you call her? Char Char?
Char Char. Right now, this is really cool. This is so needed, too. We welcome back to the airwaves, Jackson Galaxy. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Hey, guys.
So I dig the new book, and it's, let me tell listeners about it. I'll hold it up to the microphone so they can see the pictures on the front. But there's never been a book that tells you how to pimp out your house for the cats. To make the house perfect for your cats, because, they need a lot of intellectual stimulation. They like high places. You have probably the ultimate book on just all kinds of furniture things that you can put together for the house. It's called Catification, Designing a Happy and Stylish Home for Your Cat and You.
It's kind of like a do-it-yourself book.
If you could see me now, I am bowing to you, Jackson. I am bowing because we needed this.
Well, the thing is, if I had to retrace 20 years of going to people's houses, it's every time I say what you've said, they need to go up in high places. They need to scout out the world in a safe way. They need to get away from one another. You've got to put out more litter boxes, whatever it is. There's always that resistance because I think at the bottom of it is that thought that if you do anything environmentally for your cat, suddenly you're a crazy cat lady, and we wanted to prove that you can do it without, for 1 second, sacrificing your own aesthetic, which I'm sure you're seeing in the book. And you can do it for very little money. You can do it for a lot of money. You can do it for a little work or a lot of work. But basically, there's no excuse to not make your house attractive to the cat.
What if you rent? Are there things you can kind of temporarily do so you're not putting holes in the wall and destroying your landlord's property?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things you might not think about is that we've done over 100 cases alone on My Cat from Hell, and many, many, many of those are rented properties. And we ran into that over and over and over again, where I'd come up with something incredibly complex, and they'd say, well, we can't drill into the wall. And so, a lot of the projects in the book cater just to that. Because, again, it's a matter of, when we talk about this thing called the cat superhighway, where your cat wants to, go from the couch up to the bookcase, up to the mantle, and around the room without touching the ground, you can create that without putting a thing into the wall.
There might be new listeners with new kitties that might be saying, well, I got them their bowl and I got them their litter. What did they need that
What
for? I
else?
thought these guys are solitary animals, low maintenance.
Sleep all day.
Yeah, why do I need to make anything for them?
Well, and part of what I do is educate what cats really are. For instance, one of the things you just said, the cats sleep all day. We think they do. In reality, one study showed that they spend more time looking out the window than they do sleeping. So if that's something they do, why not engage them even when they're in that passive state? Because the thing is that when you get home, at some point you're going to pay the price for that sort of, sedentary nature. They're going to beat up on another cat. They're going to mark somewhere because they've got all that sort of built-up static electricity in their body. So, what I'm saying is don't wait till something goes wrong. Educate yourself about what cats actually are, that they're just these incredibly bright and active hunters. And if we environmentally build things up for them, then we're just heading a lot of problems off the path.
See, we have a door dasher that gets so bored he just wants out to see what's in the outside world.
We should have a cattery for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No. Well, don't you think that a lot of times, I work in a practice with dogs, cats, and all sorts of critters, and a lot of people, I think, mistakenly think you can turn a cat into a dog just kind of by just given the things that dogs like. So I find a lot of frustration. I don't know if you encounter that, where people just try to discipline them like a dog or ask them to behave like one.
Right, exactly. No, and it's epidemic. I mean, the thing is that we want that because we get dogs. We understand what their body language is all about. We have trained that into them over hundreds of thousands of years. We get it, and we don't get cats as a culture. And of course, that's part of my job is to get everyone to get cats. But in the meantime, we just try to put them, put the cat-shaped pig in the dog-shaped hole, and it doesn't work. And everyone will find that out, and hopefully, again, by education, you're not going to wind up getting frustrated because your cat's a cat.
We are with Jackson Galaxy. The book is called Catification, Designing a Happy and Stylish Home for Your Cat and You. And I'm looking on page 46, and I'm seeing that there's cat geometry, apparently. I guess when the cats enter a room, they look around. Tell me, what's that all about?
Cat geometry, I also call it cat chess. That, when, especially in a multi-cat home, when one cat walks in the room, they're looking at every move they can possibly make. Where are the escape routes? Where are the ambush points? Where are the hot zones in the room? And the one who tends to beat up on the other cats is working towards checkmate the entire time, trying to cut off angles. They work this stuff out within a blink of an eye. And again, by giving them that cat superhighway, by giving them exit routes, by giving them perching places, you're cutting off all of that negative cat geometry and all of that cat chess.
Because that one predatory cat can't cover all bases, so the cat's going to have an escape route.
Exactly. Yeah, buddy, you can't own everything.
Yeah.
Not at the same time, anyway.
You will have to check out the pictures in this book. I'm telling you to pick it up right now. The pictures will give you some great ideas. I have some great ideas from just looking at this. It's a well-done book, by the way. I've got to tell you that. I mean,
Thank you very much.
It takes a couple of things to put out a great book, obviously, great content, but when it looks like this, as sharp with great ideas and all the details so that you can figure out how to catify your house, you want to pick it up. I have 9 copies to give away.
Oh, wait, we had 10, Hal.
I'm sorry. If you're not lucky enough to get through, head on over to Amazon or wherever you get your books and look for Catification by Jackson Galaxy. And is Kate your wife, Kate Benjamin? Is your wife, girlfriend?
No. Kate is... I do have a wife, but that's not Kate.
Okay, I heard the wild rumor.
Kate and I have been... No. We've been working together for a couple of years now. Kate refers to herself as a cat-style expert. So believe me, I needed that. I'm really good at the function, but at the end of the day, I am a guy. And I needed somebody who would help us perform, and that's Kate.
And you're mature enough to admit that. I couldn't do that, but very good.
Yes, and Jackson and his wife got married at Best Friends.
Oh, they did?
Yes, they did.
Good old Best Friends.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Fun place out.
We just got married there during the summer.
I decided when, I've been out there was it Angel's Rest, where they have the cemetery for the cats and dogs,
yes.
Well, different animals too,
right.
but when I pass away, I want to have my ashes scattered over that cemetery.
Really?
I just think that's beautiful.
Have you told your husband about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's honest. It's one of the most magical places in the world. I encourage everybody to take a weekend, go out there, and you recharge your batteries as you work with the animals there, as you take care of them. And I'm not even joking about it. There's something when you go into that canyon that you just unplug, and it's a beautiful thing.
You come out of that canyon different from when you went in.
Yeah. Everybody should do that once.
Well, yeah.
Yep.
Well, Jackson, thanks for hanging with us today. Good luck on the book. It's really an awesome book. Thanks for making it happen.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
Take care of yourself.
Alrighty.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the great honor of presenting to you the dog father, Joey Villani.
Well, last week, actually it wasn't last week. It was last week. I got yelled at. I freelance, as you guys know, in a bunch of different salons.
Yelled at?
Usually when I'm there.
Who would yell at you?
When I'm there,
Someone with a death wish.
I kind of, take over. Well, she was, all I got to say was she, and she was old enough to be my mom, so I had to sit there and take it. But what happens is, coming into the holiday season, okay, which usually starts around the second week of December, is everybody wants to get their pets in to be groomed. The big problem is they want to stretch it out. So they don't want to have their pets groomed now through the month of November. So they'll put it off so they can have it done for the holidays. Now, that's the biggest mistake that you can do at this point, because groomers look at this. This is a big part of their season is the month of December, because usually January quiets down because everything slows down. People don't have the money, and kids go back to school after having their winter holiday and all that. So the smart thing to do is this: have your pets groomed real well now in November. Okay, so you stretch it out. So what I would say is have your pets groomed right before Thanksgiving. And then when they go in December, most groomers don't like to do heavy haircuts. They do grooming touch-ups. You are the perfect candidate now for me to give you that appointment, because I can get you in, I can get you out real quick. And what happens is you're able to service a lot more clients to keep people happy. The good thing about it is this: number one, you stay with the same groomer that your pet is happy with. And in a lot of cases, there's a lot of injuries during the holidays, because then people start going to other places where dogs aren't used to and cats aren't used to, or maybe they're just not as good as the professional that you're working with. So have them done in November, get that holiday touch-up in December, and just continue on schedule, and you'll be real happy. But if you try to push it, you may not get in, and that's just how it is. There's not enough groomers to go around.
Good advice: avoid the grooming rush and get in early and do it a few times.
It's funny. It's something that you would think is so silly, but if you are that person that wants that December holiday appointment and you can't get in, you know what? You will curse me out. You'll curse me out up and down. And the sad part about it is you usually come back and, with your tail between your legs. But it's happened, and it's happened many times.
What did the lady sound like?
What do you mean you can't give me a holiday appointment for December? I'm booking it now. It's the end of October. It's the beginning of November. You can't give me an appointment now?
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
This portion of Animal Radio is underwritten by Fear-Free Happy Homes. Don't forget, you can get your fix of Animal Radio anytime you want with the Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android. It's made possible by Fear-Free Happy Homes, helping your pets live their happiest, healthiest, fullest lives at home, at the vet, and everywhere in between. Thanks, Fear-Free, for underwriting Animal Radio.
Hi, this is Dean Koontz on Animal Radio. Please spay and neuter your pets.
Life can be full of risks. One thing you shouldn't take a risk with ever is your family's health insurance. If you're self-employed or you now need affordable health insurance, you need to make this free call right now and see how the Health Insurance Helpline can help you get it.
800-472-0658. 800-472-0658. 800-472-0658. That's 800-472-0658.
Hey, everybody, this is Kenny Lee Lewis from the Steve Miller Band. Just want to tell everybody out there on Animal Radio, thanks for loving your pets.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Coming up in just a few minutes, actress Charlotte Ross fills out the schedule for our accidental season of the Stars, which started with Joyce DeWitt. Next weekend, perhaps Lori Morgan and Hilary Swank looking good. She is a hottie.
Down, boy.
So, so is Charlotte. Let's go to Thomas first. Hey, Thomas, how are you?
Okay, I'm good. How are you? How are the doctors today?
How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah, we have a 5-year-old Pomeranian, and she scratches not all the time, but what's a good shampoo to use on her?
It depends on the situation. I mean, does she have fleas? Does she have...
They're hard to get off.
And what have you been using?
We've been using Johnson's baby shampoo.
Well, that's unfortunately not going to kill your fleas, though. That's the only problem. I mean, do you have a situation where you cannot use any type of flea products on your pet?
What would be safe?
Well, there's a lot of good shampoos that are out there in your local pet store with tea tree and pyrethrins that you could use. But if you're having a major flea problem, I would probably go to a professional first to get them off of your dog. But the important thing is that you also treat the environment, the house, the bedding, the car, everywhere that the pet is, because what happens is if you're just going to use the general flea shampoo, well, it's not going to leave any protection on your pet. Frontline seems to be safe for a lot of pets, but then there's some pets that get reactions to it. And the other thing is you got to watch, because a lot of times the dogs are allergic to the flea bite, and they can get a dermatitis as well, and that's something I'll let Dr. Deb talk a little bit more about, because that's more of her area.
And I'm going to say, itching in general, it could certainly be the fleas, but there are vast majority. There's many other causes of itchiness in pets, and I've seen people that use flea products on dogs as a way to treat an itch that really isn't flea driven.
Okay.
So
I've heard that lemon juice is okay to use for the kids. Does that work somewhat?
No,
lemon juice doesn't work at all.
No. As far as to treat the fleas, Joey's right. We need to get in a comprehensive flea control program. So if you've got a flea problem, we need to be treating the pet and the environment. So I do not advocate using dish soap or lemon juice as a way to treat that. So that's one part of things. But your pet could certainly be itching for other things, whether they be allergies or skin disease. And there's a lot of different types of medicated shampoos that we might use to help with those type of problems. And I was just going to give the example of a pet that actually had would be the equivalent to eczema in dogs. It actually had a dry skin condition, and a family was actually just kept using types of flea products on the dog to try to stop the itch, and it was really kind of throwing the wrong product at the dog, and it did nothing. It actually exacerbated its skin. So that's where seeing a groomer professionally is very important, but see that veterinarian to make sure that we are effectively treating your pet with comprehensive flea control and other skin
normally
disease.
it's Frontline, correct?
Well, that's one of the, the main products, Frontline Plus. It also has not just the adulticide, but an insect growth regulator. So it kills the adults, but it also kills the next generation. But there's other, wonderful products out there as well. And it just depends on what your veterinarian's most comfortable with in your area and, potentially, concerned. Some people have had great experiences with one product. Some may have had a bad experience with another. But the vast majority are, proven proof. There is proof that they're safe and efficacious.
There's a quick, easy method to see if your pet has fleas. And what you could do is if you get a paper towel and you spray it down with some alcohol and just stand your dog over it and just run your hand through the coat. Now, if the dog has fleas, most likely what will happen is the flea dirt, which is what the fleas leave behind. It's basically dried blood. If there's any type of flea dirt, it's going to fall down onto the paper towel. And if you see what looks like, with blood, that is the dried blood that's rehydrated. And then most likely your pet has fleas or had fleas on them, and that was left behind. Because, again, one flea bite to a dog that's allergic, that dog could scratch and scratch and scratch and not have a flea on it. So that's why Dr. Deb is totally right that just, if your dog is scratching and not seeing anything, bring it to the veterinarian, because it could be something that's real minor that could turn into something very serious, because the pet is going to continue to scratch and irritate it and cause an infection.
Joey, and just to be clear, making sure he's understanding, we're not advocating pouring rubbing alcohol on the pet to treat the fleas. He's suggesting this to diagnose if you can't see fleas. No, this
is to diagnose if they have it, if they have fleas. And, the same thing, I know you brought up dish detergent. Now, dish detergent in a pinch is a degreaser that'll kill fleas. It's not really recommended. It's like a last resort type of thing. But, again, you want to make sure your pet has fleas first before you're doing this.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you for your call today.
Thank you.
What is the craziest thing, Joey, that you've heard of someone doing in the name of trying to kill fleas? Like I've had people pour
oil.
I think oil or like engine oil. Is that what they use?
Engine oil?
Yes. I've had that. I've had that. I don't know where that actually came up. And they brought the dog in, and the dog was covered in motor oil. And this was years ago. I got to tell you, getting the motor oil out of the dog ended up killing all the fleas because we had to use a heavy degreaser, so that ended up killing all the fleas anyway. But it was bad. We and you could tell the dog was a little lethargic from it. We made them take him to the vet immediately after the grooming.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
This is Jane Lynch on Animal Radio. Please spay and neuter your animal. Spay or neuter. Let me say that again. You don't want to do both. Spay or neuter. Let me say it again. Can I do that?
You can do whatever you want.
Oh, God bless. I'm going to try it one more time. Hi, this is Jane Lynch on Animal Radio. Please spay or neuter your animal. I love it.
You do so good early in the morning.
I'm so caffeinated right now, can I tell you? I'm barely holding it together.
You're awesome.
Happy holidays from your friends at Fido Friendly Magazine. The fall-winter issue is available now for your dog to sniff out all the great Fido Friendly hotels and great products to set all tails wagging. This is the must-have issue of the year. So subscribe today at FidoFriendly.com with code HONEY and get a 15% discount. Make this a gift for an additional $10 for your Fido-loving friends and have a Fido fabulous holiday.
This is an Animal Radio News Update.
I'm Tammy Trujillo. I sure wish they had come up with this when I was in college. Animal-assisted therapy can reduce symptoms of anxiety and loneliness among college students. That's a result of a study done by researchers from Georgia State University, Idaho State University, and the Savannah College of Art and Design. Now, they provided a therapy dog, Sophie, to students twice weekly during the study. And the students could interact with her for as long as 2 hours. They got to pet her, hug her, feed her, brush her, draw pictures of her, take pictures of her, sit near her, play fetch with her, pretty much anything. Researchers found a 60% decrease in self-reported anxiety and loneliness symptoms following sessions with Sophie. This is one of the first studies to apply animal-assisted therapy in a group college setting and use a systematic form of measurement. And it suggests that animals can be a good way for college counseling centers to help students. Okay, so what about the stress on the therapy dog? Now, this is something totally different. Another study looked at that. Scientists at the Vet Medini Vienna College investigated how therapy dogs feel in a therapy setting and how to create a largely stress-free situation for them. The keys turned out to be whether the dogs were on a leash or not, whether they could leave the room at any time if they wanted, and if they were provided water that they could get to when they wanted. The current study shows that under those conditions, the dog's stress levels did not go up, and those results were published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior. Anytime I take a vacation, no matter how much fun it is, I always end up missing my pets. And it turns out that most of us do. A survey by the website What If said that 10% of pet guardians who leave their pets at home call them to talk to them on the phone. 4% send their pets postcards. And 23% bring their pets back a souvenir from the trip. That's what I do.
Hey, I FaceTime my pets. I don't know if anybody else does.
Do
when
they
I'm
answer?
away,
Really? Do they actually answer?
You know what? Because I'm always on the road, and Elaine is home. So, I mean, if you go on FaceTime, say hello to the dogs, the bird, I mean, not that they know even what the hell's going on, but, it makes you feel better.
I bet they do.
Oh, yeah, at least they hear your voice. They know your voice.
Yeah. More than 4 out of 10 people can't leave the pets at home, and they take them on vacation with them. And it's not just the cats and dogs that get to go, but according to this survey, birds, rabbits, reptiles, and even fish are going on vacations as well. I'm Tammy Trujillo. Get more breaking animal news anytime at animalradio.com.
This has been an Animal Radio News Update. Get more at animalradio.com.
You're listening to Animal Radio. If you missed any part of today's show, visit us at animalradio.com or download the Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Dr. Debbie answering your vet medical questions, and dog father Joey Villani. Don't forget, you can ask those questions on the Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android. It's a free download. You can listen to past shows. You know who's on now? Charlotte Ross is joining us. Hi, Charlotte. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm all on Twitter.
Okay, Hal, calm down.
Thank you for that intro. I'm very flattered.
Well, now I understand that you're working with the animals, and what's going on?
Oh, I've been an animal activist for years. Ever since I was a little girl, I've had this dream of trying to help any way I can, being a voice for the voiceless. And the more I educated myself, the more, active I got. And I think there's so many wonderful organizations out there, and I think Best Friends is absolutely one of them. I think they're just leading the charge and being a no-kill shelter, trying to get the United States to be no-kill, which I'm sure is everybody's dream, I mean, now 9,000 a year, put down in L.A. alone each year. So it's just, as we all know, it's so tragic and archaic, and they really are pushing the envelope that way. So they have the largest no-kill in Kanab, Utah, and then they have 2 in Los Angeles called Mission Hills and 1 in KLA, No-Kill Los Angeles. And I'm just really honored to be a part of anything they have to do. I'll help them in any way I can.
We've been a part.
We were a part of Best Friends. We lived in Kanab, and we've dealt with
Yeah,
yes,
we did the whole thing. Did a radio show with them and everything.
Yes,
but,
was up at the sanctuary every day.
It's a great place to help out with the animals, and I know there's a lot of people that every once in a while they get this aspiration to go off and help the animals, just quit their day job, get out of that cubicle and go live in Kanab.
Especially if you go to Kanab. Isn't that place magical?
Oh, absolutely magical.
How long were you guys there?
5 years.
It was almost a decade.
Wow, I'm so impressed. That's just amazing. Yeah. I think that place is just heaven on earth. Every time I'm there, I'm thinking I'm going to give up everything and just move here.
You and everybody else.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm taking my 10-year-old son there in a couple months because I went there last year, and he's a big animal lover, and it's just such a hands-on way to see what they do and such a variety of animals,
It's one of those places everybody must visit at least once in their lifetime.
Yes.
Absolutely. It happens to be right in the middle, as you know, of some of the most beautiful places in the United States.
Uh-huh.
The Grand Canyon and everything. So
Zion.
The whole thing is, and it's so family-friendly, and it just makes you want to have your own rescue organization. I mean, it's so inspiring.
Well, no. So tell me, what's this mirror that you have? What's it all about? Is it? Do you look in it and do you look as beautiful as you?
I do. I look in it every day and say, "Please, more work." No. It's just anytime there's somebody who wants to collaborate in helping to bring awareness and raise funds to organizations, particularly Best Friends, as we just mentioned. I'm jumping up and down, and I'm on board. And Ken has been a friend of mine for decades now, and I think he's really has this beautiful design launch that he's been doing. It's getting a lot of traction.
We're talking about the Ken Gray home accessory line. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have this beautiful mirror. He named it the Charlotte mirror. It's very subtle, I know. But it's this really beautiful big mirror, and a part of the proceeds go to Best Friends, so I'm helping kind of promote that right now.
And you can get that over at kengrayhome.com. That's with 2 N's, and we'll put links to everything you've heard on today's show over at animalradio.com.
Good.
Tell us about the animals you have at home. Do you have animals at home?
Oh, of course. Don't you guys?
Of course.
My gosh, you were in Kanab, Utah. You probably have a whole bunch.
We have a whole studio full of animals.
We have a kitten from, he's not a kitten anymore, but we have a cat from Best Friends.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Which one, the Utah one or
yes.
LA?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. Oh, that's a... well, I recently was what was I? They call it a foster failure.
Yep. you try so hard, but you can't.
I was one of them.
Yep.
Twice.
I know, and I told my son, I said, we can cry, but we can't continue fostering if we don't understand. We have to bring them back. So the truth is I've always had 2 or 3 dogs. I have one from the South Central LA shelter named Tyler. He's a large-sized dog. His name was Tyson, which I thought was a bit suspect. I didn't really like that. And then I did a movie in Puerto Rico years ago and brought back 5 and found homes for 4, kept 1. I named him Taco. And, Taco was on the cover of like 4 or 5 dog magazines because I loved telling the story of Taco because he was skittish, a little bit aggressive. I mean, he survived in the streets of Puerto Rico, for God's sakes, for a year. Is he a
Chihuahua?
No, he was like the king of Puerto Rico, so no, he wasn't a Chihuahua, but he was just a little bigger, just a little bit bigger. He looked like a Jack Russell. So anyway, I think that people give up too quickly when they rescue dogs. That was hard to handle or he's got issues. And Taco is emblematic of continued love and food and and support, and he became what I think all rescued animals become, and that's forever grateful. And he lived for 18 years, and he passed away about a year ago, and I'm not quick to replace animals, so I was waiting and just fostering cats as well. And then one day I was fostering 4 from Mission Hill's best friends, and he was playing with my lonely Tyler dog, who the doctor had said he's obese. Because I don't think he's obese, but you have to be careful that your dog's
Sure.
weight.
Yes. We hear that all the time.
Yes.
Anyway, and then one of the puppies sat on Taco's grave, and I thought, oh, this is that moment, and so I kept one, and her name is Sadie, and I think she was from some place in L.A. as well, dropped off at one of the city shelters covered in feces and that kind of thing. So I only have 2 right now.
Only 2. We hear a lot of times, especially with actors and actresses, they don't have animals because they travel so much.
They work so much and travel so much, they don't think it's fair to leave the animal at home.
Well, I had a one-eyed Pekingese for 18 years as well, and she went everywhere with me. I mean, I never shot in L.A., Vancouver, New York, wherever. I personally just have to have dogs around.
Sure.
And I think that maybe if I'm going on location for 1 week or 2 weeks, I don't bring them and board them or have friends and that kind of thing. But I just can't imagine, because, you always have a home base, or if you're on location for a few months, I have to have dogs around. I know it's a little more expensive and high maintenance, but that's just kind of my choice,
Sure. Charlotte, it was so fun visiting with you today, and I encourage listeners to check out the website, kengrayhome.com, with 2 N's. And, of course, we'll put those links over at animalradio.com. And check out the Charlotte Mirror and help out best friends when you get this mirror.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all?
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
A little bubbly gal.
I was just enamored with her.
Dogs or cats, horse or emu, animals are people too.
U.S. Border Patrol agents recently detained an Arizona driver when drug-sniffing dogs reacted to the smell of marijuana in his car. The dogs were right. A small amount of marijuana was found, and when the agents asked the driver if he had anything else they should know about, he admitted, yes, he did have an alligator. Sure enough, there was a live 4-foot alligator stuffed into his suitcase. The driver was arrested on drug charges, and the alligator, who was in good shape, although wrinkled, I bet, was released to the Arizona Game and Fish Department. Maybe with all that pot smoking, he thought he was carrying an alligator bag. I'm Britt Savage for Animal Radio.
Animals are people too. Animal Radio.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Find us at animalradio.com. Log on, learn more.
Thousands of authors across the country have written books and published them with Page Publishing. If you've written a book, they can help you through the process, cut through the confusion of the publishing world to make it easy for you. If they decide to publish your book, your work ends, theirs begins. From copy editing and proofing to typesetting and book cover art. Plus, get your book printed, distributed, and sold on Amazon, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, and in bookstores across the country. They even help promote your book. Biography, self-help, mystery, novels, sci-fi, or even a children's book. No matter what genre, Page Publishing can bring your book to life. And don't forget to ask about audiobooks. We do all of this for you. Call today for your free writer's guide packed with tips, tricks, and templates to help you finish what you started.
800-215-6815. 800-215-6815. 800-215-6815. That's 800-215-6815.
I'm Beth Stern on Animal Radio and Adopt from your local shelter.
You're listening to Animal Radio. If you missed any part of today's show, visit us at animalradio.com or download the Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Didn't you take your dog to be tested for its herding instinct?
Yeah, I did. And she passed.
Oh, good.
So she is of a herding breed. So that's originally where the breed kind of came about, was guarding cattle and herding the cattle and guarding the home. And so nowadays, not many of them get that opportunity in suburbia. So it's just a way to kind of test to make sure the breed still retains some of the instincts it was.
So, but what does this mean for Nikki now? Are you going to take her out on weekends and let her herd up some cats and
No. I think it's just a little notch on her belt to say she did it, and it's like an experience. As a kid, I went to like dance classes. I played volleyball. It's something to stimulate her mind and keep her busy physically. So
Nikki is your child, isn't she?
She is, in every sense of the word, and I do spoil her. But I just corrected some really big grooming boo-boos I had been doing, Joey. So I got some tips, and I'm working on getting her to look a little bit better.
Cool.
Yeah, it takes time.
And Judy says Tony's on the phone for Dr. Debbie. Hey, Tony.
Hey there, how are you today?
Good. What's going on?
Hey, I was calling. I have a cat. I have an exotic short-haired cat. I don't know if you're familiar with the breed. It's part Persian. Yeah, they're short-haired Persians, basically, and it's considered the extreme exotic short-haired because it has the complete flat face. And I got this little girl from a breeder, and she sold it real cheap. The reason being is part of her face, I guess it has something to do with her nostrils and her nose. It's something on the inside makes her where she constantly has a runny nose, and when she sneezes, she'll literally sling mucus all over the place. But she said that there really wasn't nothing that could be done, but some vets have said that, there could be surgeries or antibiotics or something. I was wondering if I could get an idea from what you would think if you've seen this before.
Oh, gosh, yes. And I have to say, I love exotic short hairs, but they don't like me. I am very allergic to the breed, along with some different other exotic short hair breeds. They just make me itchy, sneezy, so I start blowing snot all over the place. But as far as for kitties that do this, and, you mentioned Persians and some of the exotic short-haired breeds, they definitely can have a propensity for chronic rhinitis, some eye discharge, and some degree of that can be normal. However, I usually characterize those kitties as the ones having just a little bit of just the brown to mucousy eye boogers and nose boogers. If we've actually got snot, and snot is, in my book, equals green or a boogery kind of consistency, then we really have more of an infection component or a rhinitis that's going on. So we may very well have some kind of a chronic viral and or bacterial infection. And we know that actually 90% of the cases of kitties with these respiratory snuffly cases, they're generally viral, which means that they can come and go, can be a chronic problem, can actually be worsened at certain times in their life when they're stressed, they're nervous, other things are going on in their kitty life. So it may not be that there's nothing that can be done, but it may mean that you need to look at what you can do to help control her symptoms and to try to help things out. So I definitely, if I hear someone say, "Oh, we just can't do anything to help out my kitty," I like to make sure that that's truly the fact. And I think there could be some things done for your baby. Just depends on how well we can control that. And it is a battle. And there are some cats. I've had cases where kitties with chronic snuffling cases where they're blowing boogers all over the walls, we do our best to manage that, make them as comfortable as possible. And some kitties, it means long-term antibiotics. Sometimes we'll put them on antivirals, or even things like lysine that can help with the herpes virus that is very common in these kitties.
Now that would help with the cat symptoms?
It can, yeah, because the great majority of these kitties have a viral infection. And of those, 90% of those infections are actually due to herpes virus and calicivirus, which kind of have that waxing and waning course. So lysine is one thing that can help disrupt herpes virus replication in animals as well as people. So we can supplement with that. And there's treats, there's pastes, and all sorts of things like that we can use. Also, sometimes, these antibiotics we'll use on a long-term basis for kitties, and we find a low dose of something that can actually help, maybe control things. And for some kitties, I like to look at whether or not we've done some diagnostics, because I've had some cats where we can't get a handle on things, and they can actually develop little polyps, little kind of growths in the back of the throat or in the sinus passage. And they can even have where the cartilage just gets so diseased after a lifetime of all this snuffling and discharge and so forth, that the cartilage in the nose actually gets kind of dead, or what we call necrotic, and it actually has to be cleaned out with surgery. So there's a lot that can be done. It just kind of depends on establishing where your particular kitty is, and that might mean if you haven't had her to a vet yet, to check that out. I would definitely recommend you do that. Let them take a good look, a listen, maybe run some basic lab work, and try some of the routine therapies, an antibiotic, an antiviral, maybe a lysine supplement. For some people, if you're really good and your cat's really accepting, you can do nasal flushes, but it's not for everyone because the scratches can be immense for some cats.
Thanks for your call, Tony. Well, what do you say we all get out of here and go walk our dogs and cats and iguanas and ferrets and flamingos?
Go groom our Bouvier.
Yes, let's go do that. And is that it?
Oh, I think that's it.
If you want a transcript of the show, go ahead, write down everything we say, and send us $5. Does that work?
It works for me.
Okay. We'll see you next week right here on this fine station.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
This is Animal Radio
Network.